समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
There is now enough prima facie evidence that the Delhi car blast that took place in the Red Fort area was not an isolated terror plot. In fact, prima facie evidence uncovered by investigators suggest that there were multiple cars, some reports suggesting as many as 32. 4 cars have already been seized by police as they look at a Faridabad terror module run exclusively by doctors that was set to target different cities in India, taking us back to the years that we thought we had put behind us of serial blasts in our major cities and crowded bazaars. We're looking at a white-collar network in which even women doctors have been implicated, with a doctor, Shaheen Shahid, now being accused or investigated for being in touch with the wife of the 2019 Pulwama attack mastermind. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. The grim aftermath of the Delhi car blast that took place in the Red Fort area continues, and every day comes a new startling piece of information. Not just new CCTV footage and angles and cameras that catch the full force of the explosion, but also sinister details of doctors linked to, many of whom are linked to one university, Al-Falah, doctors with roots in Pulwama in the Kashmir Valley, women. At least one woman doctor is being investigated for links to the Jaish-e-Mohammed in being accused of recruiting women into her network. You see her image on the screen. Investigators are now looking at whether she's in touch with the wife of the 2019 Pulwama terror attack mastermind. We are looking at perhaps a kind of terror network that we haven't seen before. While there have been educated terrorists before, this is a terror network almost exclusively made up of doctors. And Umar Abdullah has come out today saying that, of course, he condemns what's happened, but not every Kashmiri Muslim should be treated as a terrorist. The opposition is asking for a special session, an enhanced session of parliament after the Delhi blast. The government has officially recognized yesterday, after a meeting of the CCS and the cabinet, what happened in Delhi to be a terror attack. And what we do know now is that it was a big plan, a plan that was looking to target multiple Indian cities using multiple cars. Some officials suggest that what happened in Delhi was a result of quote unquote panic, that perhaps Umar Mohammed, whose DNA has now established him to be the occupant of the I-20 that exploded in Delhi, was not a suicide bomber, but somebody who was looking to move the explosives once the police exposed the Faridabad module. Other experts have questioned why the police went public with the fact that they had busted such a module when all of its elements had not, in fact, been cracked down on. Either way, India is looking at something sinister, something that used to take place about a decade ago. Many of us are old enough to remember those years. A white-collar terror network, and a reminder that our cities are not necessarily safe. I want to introduce our distinguished panel of experts today as we continue to decode the aftermath and understand the full scale of the Delhi Red Fort blast and its affiliated Faridabad terror module that was busted by the police. It's also important to say here that it was an alert SHO in the Kashmir Valley who spotted posters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed where they never come up before in Nagam in the Kashmir Valley, that actually led the Jammu and Kashmir police to investigate all of this and led to the crackdown in Faridabad, led to the unveiling of the terror links to doctors who were teaching at the Al-Falah University. On the program today, Tavleen Singh, author and columnist. Good to see you, Tavleen. Also joining us, military veteran, General Rakesh Sharma. Always a pleasure, sir. And also joining me is educationist Zafar Sareshwala, who has particularly been working on education in the Muslim community, including in the Kashmir Valley. Thank you very much. I'd like to start with you, Tavleen. We remember these years. We've been here before. Zaveri Bazaar in Bombay, Sarojini Nagar in Delhi, markets in Ahmedabad, markets in Varanasi. And we thought that time was behind us. It could be said that though what has happened in Delhi is very dastardly and horrible and tragic, perhaps a more sinister plot has been stopped. That said, it is a grim reminder that while it looks like much has changed, many things may not have changed at all. You're still looking at a very radicalized section of the Kashmir population. All of these people, doctors, what is the first thought that you have as the details come tumbling out?
Okay, I have 2 or 3 points. One is on the Kashmir problem, the fact that they're all Kashmiris. I've been hearing, I was in Kashmir 2 years ago, and everyone told me then that it was simmering, that underneath the lights in downtown and all that sort of thing, there was anger. And the day after the blast, I met one of my friends from Kashmir, and he said to me, I told you 2 years ago. So these guys have been, they've been wounded. You've insulted them. It's not just Article 370. Article 370, I think, is not relevant. But you broke up the state. Then, this constant humiliation of it never, they're begging to become a state again, which I think they should be allowed to. They should have political rights. So on the Kashmir front, we've actually let the ball drop. And, there's been too much of this, showing off about, there's no terror left in the valley and all that. That, I think, is a big mistake that was made by very senior BJP leaders, and they should be careful in the future. The other thing I want to tell you is, when you say, we thought it was all behind us, it wasn't. I actually live in Bombay, and let me tell you that after 26/11, everyone was hoping that ordinary policemen would be given some training in counterterrorism. That involves going into areas where you think that they might shelter if they're planning an attack, and learning. Counterterrorism is a specialty. It's not a part of normal policing. None of that has happened. In Delhi, it hasn't happened at all. So, and what you find now is the police using the media to make their case. And the media is willingly going along with this. They're not doing any investigation of themselves. They keep saying this is exclusive to us. No, the police is leaking all this information now to cover the fact that they should have known already what was going to happen.
Okay, so 2 points there. One is that some credit to the Jammu and Kashmir police, who have had great experience in counterterrorism, for actually spotting that Jaish-e-Mohammed poster in an area where it hadn't been seen before, and SHO spotted it. He alerted his seniors. They got to the bottom of it. I believe that you could argue that the mistake, perhaps, and I don't know what other panelists feel, was the press conference that happened announcing that it had been busted, when maybe it hadn't been fully taken control of, leading to this Umar Mohammed either doing a suicide bomb mission or trying to move the explosives and detonating them accidentally. Would you, before we come to the larger challenges of Kashmir, would you give some credit to the Jammu and Kashmir police for that at least?
Well done that they managed to do this. Very well done. But I mean, look at the speculation that's going on now. Do you know, I mean, all that we've leaked to the media has been, he could have been wanting to he could be a suicide bomber. On the other hand, he could be moving, I mean, it's alarming. The information about the ammonia nitrate, whatever it is called, that one, they found that a day before, right?
Yeah.
In Faridabad. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, that should have set alarm bells ringing across the country. Was it 2,900 tons or kilos of it? I mean, that's already, how did it get there? Somebody has dropped the ball, and we have to admit it. Someone, I mean, I live in Delhi. My sister was in Chandni Chowk the day before this happened, and I said to her, "You dodged a bomb." Everybody goes to these places. These are the places that I know like the back of my hand. And, I mean, for them not to have been prepared after making that big discovery of huge amounts of ammonium nitrate, whatever it's called, I don't remember what's name.
Yeah, ammonium nitrate. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? And they also found ricin and evidence that they might be an attempt to be making a bioweapon. Oh, what's been going on? Why do we suddenly know all this? Why did we not know before?
Okay, some very valid and tough questions there, General Sharma. Do you see it the same way? Do you see it with the same? Of course, it's alarming. Of course, it is alarming. There's no question of it. When you recover hundreds of kilos of bomb-making explosives, and General Tiny Dhillon was on my program yesterday, and he said this explosive material is enough to make 20 bombs. He's the first, person to say there could be other cars out there. There could be, other cities that are targeted. Tavleen is right in saying, how did we get to this point? Yes, well done, Jammu and Kashmir police for busting this module. But two opinions on whether the Haryana police should have gone public with that fact, maybe giving, a pathway to an Umar Muhammad to do what he did in the Red Fort. And two, the alarming reminder of a kind of wider radicalized ecosystem that is obviously still there. I'm not saying, Omar Abdullah said today, not every Kashmiri Muslim is a terrorist. Of course not. None of us are saying that. But the fact is that there is an ecosystem that is strong, it's operational, it's influential. When I say it's influential, I mean it has access to clearly bomb-making explosives. And it's been using Telegram and so on. They have the camouflage of respectable jobs, doctors, professors, teachers. What do you say, General Sharma?
Thank you, Barkha. So the entire trend of your thought, which you have mentioned now, and what Tavleen ma'am had said earlier, I mean, they're all valid issues, very valid issues. This is one of the gravest things that we have seen for a very long time, and we should be very, very cautious on this happened. And I would like to emphasize on a few points on this one. One is that there is a percentage of population in the valley which stands radicalized. Now, that percentage may not be very large. If the percentage of if the population of the valley is, say, about 8 million people, so about 8 million people, if they are only 5% radicalized, that makes it 400,000. There's a substantial people, and the method of radicalization is not Maulvis alone. Maulvis matter. Many of these Maulvis don't even speak Kashmiri. They have come from the plains area, have joined up there, and then they are people from the plains belt, and they are more radicalized Maulvis than the locals there. So Maulvis is one. There is signals, there is telegram, there is dark web, there are CDs floating around, there are Zakir Naik's messages around. So there is electronic things here. Also there is by virtue of kith and kin saying. So radicalization has many methods, and that counter radicalization campaign, the audit of it that we have been doing needs to be done as to whether they're successful or not. The second issue I wish to make is that, as rightly pointed out, there is a surfeit of bomb making wherewithal available in India. Now, it is not 3 tons. 3 tons is a substantial ammonium nitrate. They must be, this is on its own doesn't burst. That means there must be explosive along with it, which must be a fuel along with it, which is available. There must be detonators along with it. Without detonators, it can't just blast away. So, there is wherewithal which we have not found as yet, because no detonator has been found in any one of these caches there. So where are the detonators lying? Where is the fuel lying? So, RDX lying? So there is more material available than one should be happy about. This is one module caught. So, we should be very anxious as to where is this material coming about. Third, none of these, these doctors, white collar, all these terminologies are not relevant. But none of them have reflected on any other module existing, any other corresponding people existing. They say one doctor to another doctor to third doctor to fifth, sixth, seventh, 10th. But are they only doctors doing this job? Are there others not available? So why, as no other module things have leaked out? Who's who's financing them. Without money, everything is not possible. So today they say the ED has reached up to the university to see as to what's happening. But why was it not being checked earlier? There are finances. And I agree with Tavleen ma'am on one issue. Look, there is social media, and then there is media, and there is surfeit of opinions and surfeit of analysis around here. Every media channel thinks, and every social media chap who can write with on his fingers feels that he knows exactly what's happening. So there is whole lot of fakery, there's whole lot of negative information around. You don't even know exactly what's happening, and there is naturally some information being fed in by various agencies. Why is it not that we have a system, and every alternative day or once in 3 days there is a proper media briefing? Please do not conjecture, please do not overanalyze issues. Please, I will do a briefing, we will let you know day after tomorrow as to what's happened in last 48 hours. It happens in very major countries. When they are briefing, you can say, okay, we will not take in any questions because investigation is in progress, but we can certainly inform. Look, and the last point I wish to raise is the issue you raised about Haryana police having told earlier as to this thing is found. Now, there are different opinions. Every media channel thinks, everybody thinks a different way on this one. Is it that because the news have spread out, that all these vehicles that we are finding are coming out? If they are not out, how do you locate a vehicle, a red colored eco van in a village, in a far off place lying there where nobody will know till the time the public comes out? So public ought to see it and report it. The question is, how does the public know this vehicle is a bad vehicle here? Till the time some media is brought out by the official people and saying, look, kindly do inform us if you see something. We are in the search of ABCD. So some kind of information is always necessary. The information has to come from the people of India, and the people of India have to be told. So I think without telling anybody, you can't say there will be information and
No,
intelligence.
I agree with that, General Sharma. But to your point about a proper media briefing, that media briefing alternatively could have simply said, we are showing you the images and the number plates of the following cars. If anyone spots a car like this or a man who looks like this, these are suspects who are on the run. Please look out. I think perhaps by saying we have busted the module, basically, I don't know. Either these people felt that they were going to be killed or caught, or they panicked, or it was a suicide bomb mission. There are so many contradictory pieces of information, even on the explosives. I have seen one account saying 2,900 kilos. I have seen another account saying 300 kilos is still untraceable. I have seen another account saying 350 kilos. What we do know is significant amount of explosives were recovered. And there was another significant amount of explosives in this car, right? I think the point that you have made is a very solid one. Why have we not had an official briefing yet? Actually, there has been no official briefing other than a few sound bites since this blast has happened. And everything else is a source-based information. And, there is no way in a national security unfolding situation, I'll be honest, for any of us to know what is correct and what is somebody is saying something, somebody else is saying something. So I think these are excellent points. But Zafar, Sareshwala, you spent some time trying to work, particularly in the Muslim community, your community, trying to emphasize the importance of education. Now you have a university. These are images of your programs that you have also taken to Kashmir. Now you have a university, and General Sharma is absolutely right in saying, अगर आज पता लगता है कि ये यूनिवर्सिटी का फाउंडर is under the ED scanner, he was implicated in a cheating case, तो ये पहले क्यों नहीं पता था किसी को? So I want you to talk about your experience.
See, Barkha, I have come to one conclusion for the Muslim community, and which I have been doing since last almost 10, 11 years. We call it, originally we used to call it Talim ki Taqat, means education. Because I always felt that the biggest problem with the Muslim community is, and it's nobody's fault, it is our own fault that nobody stopped us from being educated. So it was our fault. Let's do that. Let's build
but
a
these
community.
were, Zafar bhai, these were highly educated
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
which tells you that education is And by the way, this is not unique to India. If you look at what was that guy, Omar Saeed, involved in the 9/11 plot, he was an LSE graduate.
I knew him. I knew his family very well. He was in LSE. Yes, I know. So yes, after certain time, we came to know that education alone will not work. That's why we changed the tagline and we call it Talim o Tarbiyat. Tarbiyat means character building. Because yes, I have traveled, I have done these programs in 67 cities, including north, south, east, west in Kashmir. I visited Kashmir between 2021 and 23 at least 14 times. We did this program in Srinagar, in Pulwama. The visuals which are showing are for Pulwama. We did in Poonch. We did in Kargil. Then we also went to Leh, Ladakh. So I came to this conclusion because I have been discussing with the youth, and particularly now coming to Kashmir, there was this resentment or whatever you may say, what Tavleen ji was mentioning. So I used to tell them that, come on, by any yardstick, this kind of attitude or this kind of behavior is not acceptable. And I used to tell them that Kashmir is much better. The Kashmiri Muslims, if you take the per capita and the living standard of a Kashmiri Muslim, he is living much better than the Muslim in India. I used to tell them that tum na shukre ho, because when we did the first program in Srinagar, it was at Sher Kashmir convention center, and we did all these programs under the auspices of the LG of Kashmir, Mr. Sinha. The first program when I was doing, because I went there at least 2-3 times, these kind of people came to me and they said, ye program nahi karoge aap. I said, kyun bhai? Bole nahi. They didn't want me that I should teach the youth of Kashmir basic finance, basic capital market entrepreneurship. So I confronted them. They threatened me. They confronted me. So I told them कि जिसके लिए आप जी रहे हो, जो पड़ोस वालों के लिए, जो आपको पहाड़ों से हथियार फेंकते हैं, and that was immediately after COVID. And there was a very bad condition in Kashmir during COVID. अनाज नहीं था, तो मैंने बोला वो हथियार फेंकते थे आपको, तो क्या 200-500 किलो अनाज क्यों नहीं फेंका? उनको आपसे कोई मोहब्बत नहीं है, वो अपना काम करते हैं, इस्तेमाल आपको करते हैं. And in Pulwama, when we did, after 4-5 months after doing in Srinagar, I was threatened. In fact, we could barely do the male program, but the female also, which we do. We teach the ladies. We do a lady workshop also where we teach them how they can be self-promoting. We teach them some arts. और वो बोलते हैं कमाई का जरिया बन जावे. We had to cancel that program. The military came and they said कि यहाँ आप जफर भाई नहीं कर सकते आप. वो आप पर हमला होगा. So I told them at that particular time कि ऐसे लोग, इस ख्यालात के लोग आपके अंदर हैं. वो पढ़े लिखे हैं. And Barkha, yes, they are not the madrasa and the Maulvis. Whoever, a very minority, but most of them are university educated. And I told them in 2023 कि ये जो तुम कर रहे हो, अगर तुमने इनको रोका नहीं, वहां के जो आम लोगों को, इसलिए कि majority were worried about these people. Majority of the people were worried that after so much time, I mean after so many years, now we are seeing, the hotels were there, full 5-star hotels were running, tourists were coming. They said, ये हमारा सब बिगाड़ते हैं. So I told them that these people with their action, वो ऐसी हरकत करेंगे कि आप उसको भुगतोगे. And now what's happening? Only 5, 7 or 8 doctors or maybe some minority, but because of them, Kashmiris across the country are facing the brunt of it. I am receiving phone calls from Kashmiri doctors working in Ahmedabad, in Mumbai, in Chennai, in Bangalore. They are worried because every Kashmiri is a target now. Every Muslim is a target now. So these minority people, what they are doing with the wrong interpretation. So I think for Muslims, except condemning, it will not work. People like me and lot of others will need to come out and do something on de-radicalizing the falsehood which is spreading. I think that lot of Muslims have to do, and they'll have to do. It is there. Unless you don't accept that there is some illness in you, you will not work off it. And I know this illness, however in minority, is there, and we need to work towards it.
So that's a very big statement, Tavleen, that Zafar Sareshwala is making, that you have to accept, when he says you, he's talking about the Muslim community. You have to accept that there is a illness in the community. He's talking about Islamism. And here's the irony, many of those who died in the Red Fort area, many of them were desperately poor. Some were Hindu and some were Muslim. And the fact is that the bomb, when it went off, did not distinguish. But Zafar Sareshwala is correct that we cannot be politically correct about radicalism, about Islamism. And in a way, perhaps the Muslim community has to lead that conversation. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree with that, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I want to first continue, to expand on what General Saab was saying. Do you know that after every incident of crime in America, the police chief, the governor, the mayor, they come out, they hold a press conference, and they tell you what has happened? Why don't we have this? Why do we have to sneak around? Because to tell you the truth, when you're sneaking around and leaking information instead of providing it officially, what happens is you stop believing the police. I mean, to tell you the truth, I don't know whether the police, the information that they've given out was correct or not. How can you speculate on what was going on in the mind of that man when he blew the car up? The official leaks.
I have to say, how does it matter? How does it matter whether he wanted to kill himself or not?
Exactly,
He killed other people.
exactly.
He's responsible.
But the
He
leaks,
killed other
that's
people.
what I'm saying. But there's an amateurism in policing in India which has to change. Then to come to Zafar Saab's point about, radicalization, that's an international phenomenon. Okay, there is a worldwide jihad that has, and they take what the fact that they say that it's from the hadith, it's from the Quran, that you have to fight injustice that way. It's the same as with what happened with Khalistan. Guru Gobind Singh said something that's related to the same thing by saying that wherever you see injustice, fight it. Now, in Kashmir, there has been injustice on the part of the official, the
But
attitude.
this cannot be the answer. We cannot rationalize
It is not excuse for terrorism.
on Kashmir policy. We cannot locate bomb makers in the context of that debate.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that radicalization is a fact of life. And it's across India, in the Muslim community, and it has got exacerbated because we have not made a distinction between Muslims who are normal, because when the Gau Hatya lot are out, the Gau Rakshaks are out there, they were killing innocent people. And in the past, I'm sorry to say this, but in the past 10 years, there has been an ugliness that has come from a radicalized Hindutva youth that has, targeted Muslims the whole time. And our, most senior leaders are targeting them. Kashmir is just one part of the story. In the name of cow slaughter, in the name of something or the other, the Muslims, you cannot do that. You've got to try and engage with them. And if you can show that these are, you can say these are the values of India. We do not accept that the Sharia is above the Constitution. Say that openly. Have the moral authority to say, in India, the Constitution of India is the Sharia. You will not put that above it. Put values down and say you will not demand burqas in schools, because that is not the way of India. But we've lost the moral authority to do that because we don't distinguish between radicalized Muslims and ordinary Muslims.
So I want to get quickly, before I come to General Sharma, Zafar Sareshwala, I was coming to you only, respond to that there is a Mohsin, the rickshawala, who earned an honest living in the Red Fort area, who was killed. He was also an Indian Muslim. And he was a victim of this Islamist violence. And I think Tavleen's making the point that this clubbing of all Muslims into one stereotype, not by everybody, but sometimes by shrill politics, sometimes by religious rhetoric, that only worsens radicalism in the Muslim community.
Yes, absolutely. This whole you bracket all the Muslims and all the Kashmiris, is very dangerous, and that breeds. But I went even step further, because when I went, these resentments were there in the Kashmiris, and I said to them that yes, with this resentment, this kind of an attitude is not acceptable. And they used to quote me hadith. I said, these are wrong hadith. Hadith never says. And they said, अच्छा क्या करना चाहिए हमको, इसका क्या जवाब है? इसका जवाब मोहब्बत है. I used to tell them, and this was my tagline in Kashmir, काबिलियत तालीम की बुनियाद पर, हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन से काबिलियत विथ ऑनेस्टी एंड इंटीग्रिटी. मतलब आपको ईमानदार और अमानतदार अंदर से बनना पड़ेगा. ये जिस दिन आपके अंदर हो गया, तो जो लोग आपको बाहर रख रहे हैं ना, वो आपके घर पे दस्तक देके आपको ले जाएंगे. एंड आई यूज्ड टू टेल देम कि एक चोर होता है ना, चोर डाकू, वो भी चाहता है कि उसके घर में जो काम करे वो ईमानदार हो. तो ईमानदारी, अमानतदारी, काबिलियत, ये रास्ता नहीं है. Yes, this kind of resentment, and unfortunately, the political class of Muslims, they make such sweeping statements. One political leader of Kashmir said, हिंदुस्तान के मुसलमानों का परसिक्यूशन हो रहा है. I said, yes, हो रहा है. एक काम करो ना, आप you are sitting in your palace in Srinagar. If you have consideration for Muslims, don't do anything. Come to Ahmedabad, set up one school for 100 Muslim girls. That you will not do. They just want to make these kind of sweeping statements, but after that, they don't want to do anything. So now, by these statements or writing, it will not do. Such people will have to come. And yes, there are some fault lines, and those fault lines need to be, and this has been done in most of the GCC countries. Once upon a time, Barkha, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia had this whole ideology. You met the other day, you were discussing with one of the, and could you imagine that this kind of lady or a man would be existing in Saudi Arabia? The change which has happened in the UAE. So they were the ones who were exporting this. So I think that change has to come, but someone has to get into the community and eradicate that. It is difficult, but somebody has to start somewhere.
So, General Sharma, by the way, Tavleen, a lot of comments in the audience saying, why is Tavleen linking what happens in the heartland with what happens in Kashmir? All of these terrorists have roots in Kashmir where there hasn't been a religious persecution of Muslims. So I'm just reading that out to you, Tavleen. You can respond when I come to you next. But General Sharma, my question to you is this. There are now women doctors being investigated for links to the Jaish-e-Mohammed. There is a Dr. Shaheen, you see her on your screen. She is now being investigated for being an alleged Jaish recruiter. Investigators are now saying that she may have had links with the mastermind of the 2019 Pulwama attack. What we do know for sure, what is not in the realm of speculation, let's list what we know for sure. We know for sure that doctors at the Al-Falah University were plotting a sinister series of blasts. We know that one of them was at the wheel in the I-20 in the Red Fort area when the car exploded. We know that another car and then another car and another car were part of this plan. We have Telegram sort of as the medium on which they were sharing encrypted messages. We know they were highly educated. Right? They're highly educated and hiding behind the veneer of their respectability. So when Zafar Sareshwala says ki answer hai ki aap taaleem dijiye, taaleem is no longer the answer, or not necessarily the answer for everybody. What kind of challenges does this raise for us, especially in the Kashmir context, and especially now that the government has officially categorized this as terrorism, and they took their time in doing so. Assessing the material, I wonder now in a year of Operation Sindoor, what happens next?
Very difficult questions, Barkha, and very difficult issues of now 7 odd decades brought about together today.
Yeah.
Now the fact is there is no generalized persecution of Muslims ever. I know Zafar Saab, we have been hobnobbing on the same think tank for quite some time.
Yeah.
The fact is that we feel that a larger community is part and parcel of our society, but then there are islands which are problematic, and that one of the island comes out from, say, largely South Kashmir. the southern four districts where Zafar Saab says he was threatened in Pulwama or wherever. But there is a radicalization of a percentage of people, and the percentage of people permeate across to the area. So till day for yesterday, you and me had not heard of a university called Al-Falah.
Oh,
People
correct.
in people in Faridabad who stay close to it do not know Al-Falah. Now, how many Al-Falahs are there, which are not medical institutions, but they could be any types of Al-Falahs all around the world, which are now sponsoring such kind of small islands of issue out here, which we do not know about. See, I think, even if there is a minuscule percentage of people, I accept the point about education which Zafar Saab is making, that the larger Muslim society has to get modern education. They have to rise up. This is educated people who did this, but the larger Muslim society has to get modern education of the modern kind, so that they go out and work along with us, part and parcel, not a minuscule people number of 10 doctors, but I'm seeing larger percentage. So that education is a very important facet, and for which the Muslim community itself has to rise to that level, to make sure that everybody is not an AC mechanic or an embroider or a rickshaw puller. Larger percentage of people do same kind of white collar job like most of and the blue collar job most of
Yeah.
us do. That's one part. The other part is that we have to be cautious of the fact, maybe, look, even if the percentage is radicalized, even if there is availability of this kind wherewithal available here, is it time ripe for us to get modernized into our thinking processes to combat such kind of terror activities? No, 10 years ago, if you can recollect, and you've been here in this game for long, there was a thought process of having an NCTC, National Counterterrorism Center, where all information gets gelled in, and it is now analyzed and available to us. So it's not that one SHO sitting there puts a thing in. There may be 20 other SHOs who are gleaning information, whose information is not rising up to that level. So the
Yeah.
fact is, maybe we need to get modernized into our counter-terrorism techniques, and get all that things available to us, so that we can do this job properly. To answer you specifically, the fact is that this gentleman who was driving all over Delhi today, you ask the public out there, they say there are dates being branded about by media. 6th something will happen, or 26th November something will happen. And are we bringing about a scare and people for saying that maybe something else available? Why not clarify issues as to what is happening and how are we sorting it out? There is
Yes.
an anxiety here in the public which needs to be obviated now, as soon as possible, because public will get worried unnecessarily on what is happening. We need to challenge the system where the war fighting ammunition is being generated. We have to create professional anthropologists, sociologists, to create system of de-radicalization. Fauji's, as a Fauji, I may be involved into de-radicalization, but I am not a de-radicalization professional. You require
Yeah.
anthropologists and sociologists and thinkers who can actually guide us, or maybe Zafar Saab who can guide us to how de-radicalization or counter-radicalization has to take place. So, the whole systematic, we can't wait for one more Chandni Chowk happen. And end by saying,
Yeah.
now to say that it was a mistaken bomb went off in Chandni Chowk. One of the media, all the media houses saying, कि भाई वो गलती से क्या हुआ, उसे he panicked and he.
कि वो पैनिक करके उसने कर दिया. अरे, he still responsible.
Yeah, the other part is he went to the right place and the right time.
Correct.
Chandni
Yes.
Chowk is the best place to go at 7 o'clock to do a blast. Yeah, he went. He drove. Now whole lot of visuals are coming out. He went to Mayur Vihar. He went to CP. He went across to a mosque and all. Finally reached the right place, and he kept waiting 3 hours into a parking lot and got out. And 4 minutes later, he was in the red light and he blasted the thing out. And how do you blast a thing out without a detonator? That means that bomb was crudely prepared. It is just not that the bomb takes off its own. So, for some time, we must take a step back and say, okay, this was deliberate. His name was already around in JNK police. JNK police had spoken about this man's name, saying that, he's missing and he has to be. So there is a panic here, but he went to the right place and did the right kind of blast, which is the oxygen for terrorism. We need to we need to start thinking in a manner everything went deliberately, it was planned, maybe a little hastened in time because of the other thing found, but I think we need to be cautious of the fact that there may be a non-doctor module, there may be some other community module, some other systemic module. Then we'll say, okay, there are blue collar workers also doing, and now actually it's fashionable to talk white collar. What about white collar people who are being caught into JNK as OGWs for a very long time? People who are working, teachers and professors and things like that. So, I think we should not name it. We should get our systems right to find out before the act happens.
I'm so glad, General Sharma, you made this point about, this accidental detonation. Because if you see, the guy is parked for 3 hours. He comes out in peak traffic. He chooses a place that is next to a masjid and 2 temples. This is classic terror playbook. Yes, maybe he didn't plan it very well. Maybe he went into panic because of the press conference of the police and he felt, kya mera number aa raha hai? Let me be a suicide bomber, or let me, set this explosion off. My point is, how is it relevant to us whether he wanted to kill himself or not? He is responsible for the deaths of the people, desperately poor people who are doing nothing but earning an honest day's work. Now, I have to take final comments. I'll come to you, Tavleen, first. To all the people who are saying, Tavleen, you are rationalizing what has happened. I mean, I know you're not, but there are people in the audience who are saying Tavleen is trying to rationalize this. There is no persecution. In Kashmir, it used to be a political debate once upon a time. We have to also recognize that younger people are hardened. The more educated they are, I think Zafar Sareshwala said this, the more radicalized they tend to be. So education does not equal, liberal thought.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's going on about this educated thing. David Headley was highly educated. He'd been to an American university. He was one of the masterminds of 2611. Tahavur Rana was a doctor. Then a few years ago in Glasgow, they were all doctors. Ayman al-Zawahiri, whatever his name was, Osama bin Laden's lieutenant, was highly educated. So let's not get into the educated, non-educated thing. That's rubbish. But the general is absolutely right that our approach to counterterrorism is really defective. If the terrorists are using telegraph, and if they know how to send encrypted messages, how is it that our police stations can't communicate amongst each other with equal use of technology? And I see none of that happening anywhere, not in Bombay, not in Delhi, and certainly not in the rest of India. So, I mean, that'll take us a century, and it's not going to happen. There are radical groups in every country, radical Muslims in every country in the world. The Muslims have a problem of radicalization, which they have to deal with. We have to deal with our defenses. And, we've got to really, and by the way, anyone who thinks I was rationalizing this needs their head examined. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't give the Kashmiris, who have felt long years, they've felt that they were deprived of democracy, and they were. There were rigged elections for something like 70 years. So, I mean, the Kashmiris have a case. When after the Bhutto was assassinated, was executed, and Bangladesh was bombed, the Kashmiris were very ready to become, totally normal people. And
okay, we seem to have lost Tavleen in the tail end of her argument there, but I get the gist of it. I think she's saying there have been political challenges in Kashmir, not without a good reason. But I think it doesn't need me to say this. We would all agree that this is not the way to make a case for a political argument, or in fact for any argument targeting innocents, terrorism. This is not how you make a case for anything. Let me bring in last comments from Zafar Sareshwala and give the closing word to General Sharma. Zafar bhai, तालीम में आपने अपनी उम्मीद रखी, लेकिन तालीम से डीरेडिकलाइजेशन नहीं होता, तो क्या है नेक्स्ट है?
नहीं, तालीम भी बहुत जरूरी है कि मुसलमान हिंदुस्तान का सबसे अनएडुकेटेड है, तो वो भी तो करें हम लोग. लेकिन yes, this de-radicalization is very important, and we have our Gujarat model. You know what had happened in 2002? It was a genocide. More than 2,000 Muslims were killed in Ahmedabad city alone. More than 1,000 Muslim factories were reduced to ashes. Even my family, my house was burnt, my office was burnt, our factory was burnt. We were down in the dumps. At that point of time, there was a lot of resentment, worst kind of. Some people from the community and also Islamic scholars, they came up and they said, "Ye rasta nahi hai." Of course, a few people went on that path, but then we started working, and what we did, we started giving those kind of sermons from the pulpit and on Friday, and that's how we said this is not the way. Worst, yes, worst kind of atrocities have happened to you, but this is not the response. It is not acceptable under any circumstances. So that kind of thing is now happening. Lot of mosques, imams I've been seeing even in Mumbai, they have been talking regularly about de-radicalization, and they are giving quotes from religion. This lot of people are doing in Kashmir also, but still lot has to be done, and I feel that this ailment is mine and I need to do something to cure it.
Okay, that's passionately said. Tavleen, we lost you at the tail end of your argument. If you want to just complete it, and I'll give General Sharma the closing word. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I wasn't justifying anything. You know, I'm totally against terrorism of any kind. Nothing justifies it. But Zafar Sahab, you must notice that there was 6 killed in Delhi in a proper pogrom. At least in Gujarat, you had a riot. In Delhi, nobody, not one Hindu was killed, right? And the Sikhs have got used to it and got over it. So, you know, I mean, you know, let's get on with our lives, all right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there was no genocide in Gujarat. There was a riot that turned very ugly. In Delhi, there was a pogrom, and the Sikhs have moved on. You know,
He's saying the same thing, by the way. He's saying the same thing.
No,
the same. Yes, that's the example. That's the example we were giving. That's the example, Tavleen ji, we were giving. कि सिखों के साथ जो हुआ क्या किया, वो भूल गए, अपनी जिंदगी को बनाई, और आज देखो कहां से कहां पहुंच गए. And we did that in Gujarat. Today, Tavleen ji, if you come to Ahmedabad, you'll see all 1,000 establishments which I know were reduced to ashes. They've multiplied by more than 15-20 times. And this kind of thing is totally, there must be some sermons, but most of it, we worked on it. And we came to that conclusion. Yes, exactly. This is under any circumstances
you're both actually
not
saying
acceptable.
the same thing. You're both actually more or less saying the same thing. Tavleen, unless you want to add a sentence, I'll give General Sharma the closing word there.
No, I've lost my thread of thought. I'm done.
Okay, all right. General Sharma, closing word to you, sir. Yeah. Can we unmute General Sharma, please? Yeah, there, sir.
I said I'm also losing my trend of thought. The issues I want to raise is largely about counter-terrorism. You know, these social issues are not cannot be sorted out in 2 days. It will take a decade or more, and they'll require work to be done. And I think that's a separate issue altogether. But I think we need to challenge the supply chains and the pipelines that supply the wherewithal which can be used for targeting. One. Second, we need to get electronic about it. We need to challenge, like Tavleen ma'am is saying, about the Telegram channels or the dark web or any which way in which people are communicating, which we can't follow through. Why are we not having a repository of information of this kind that can be done? We need to get modern about counter-terrorism. So we need to have databases, you know, large databases, which can convert into AI, which can generate that one SHO doing great amount of work, and actually instead of the 20 or 40 bombs that they could have made, you know, it was all spoiled across there. The one SHO is excellent job done, but that's not the answer. We require thousands of SHOs to be on the beat to tell us as to what's happening on the ground. if that is one university we can talk about, are there another 40 more other institutions outside universities which are also sponsoring the
Yeah.
room number 13 or room number whatever they are talking about? I think we need to modernize it. And to sum it, I think we need to establish proper media briefings so that the public is assuaged that we are on top of the affairs. If we are not on top of the affairs, then there is an anxiety of what's going to happen on 26/11 and what's going to happen on 6th of December. That anxieties have to be assuaged.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the need of the hour is a kind of clinical media briefing, what we know, what we don't know. It's okay also to say there's certain things you don't know. It's part of an investigation. And the larger point is that this has been a grim reality check for so many things. Yes, kudos to the J&K police for catching this in time, for stopping something much more sinister. That said, the modernization of the police, the use of technology, the looking within at radicalism, the social fissures that terrorists want to wrench open, all of these are things that we need to remember. At this point, I'll say thank you to our guests. It's been a grim week, but thank you very much, General Sharma, Tavleen Singh, and Zafar Sareshwala, and to our audience. Thank you. We will keep, of course, bringing you every detail of this unfolding story. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.